What's up, people? It's your boy. I'm Chris the Don One, and I am back with another video. Rate, comment, subscribe. Please believe, hit that notification bell and that subscribe button so it'll let you know when my next live stream or video goes down. Okay? Follow me on Twitter. I mean, you can directly talk to me on Twitter, particularly if you have questions. You got questions, I have answers. Okay? And plus, I don't tweet as much, but when I do tweet, it's very informative, very informational. Okay? But with that being said, let's get into today's topic. Wow, 2 live streams in less than an hour. Okay, your boy is throwing out these videos. All right, so appreciate if you guys hit the like button. But this also coming from Bleacher Report, and I wanted to talk about this a couple of days ago. And we all know Russell Westbrook is now with the Houston Rockets, and now he's going to play alongside James Harden. And people talk about that dynamic, that duo, that tandem, and how they can make it work with 2 players. When you look at their usage rate, they have they're in the top 5 as usage rate. They're also in the top 5 when it comes to dribbling, ball control. They're clearly they're clearly ISO players. Okay, meaning they need the ball in their hands to perform, and to perform as well as score. They can't play without the ball. And they're when you look at their talent, scoring is ultimately what they do good, what they're great at. As they're not, when you look at these 2 players, they're not two-way players where they can play on both sides of the court, even though I feel like Russell Westbrook can do that. James Harden chooses not to do it. Okay? And when you got 2 players that can't, when you got one that can do it, and then you got another one that chooses not to do it, that therein lies a problem right there, because out of one of them 2 players, somebody's going to have to do it. Otherwise, a lot of teams are going, particularly at the point guard and the shooting guard position, they're going to have a fantastic game playing against the Houston Rockets, because you got 2 players that really don't want to. You got 2 players when you talk about defensive wise. It's either not their strong suit, or they just choose not to play. Which, when they did play in OKC, they played pretty good defense. Okay, particularly James Harden. I don't know what happened to James Harden, why he no longer wants to play defense, but that's neither here nor there. So you got 2 players that are ISO players, and we have seen this combination work. We have seen this combination before, back in the 70s with the New York Knicks, Earl Monroe. Okay, when the New York Knicks had 2 ISO dominated players, and we also seen this most recently with the Miami Heat with Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. And in both situations, somebody had to come up and said, yo, look, I'm going to sacrifice my touches, my opportunities to make this work. Out of Russell Westbrook and James Harden, who do y'all think really going to come to the conclusion or reach a conclusion? Hey, look here, man, you know what? To make this thing really work, I'm just going to give up some of my touches, some of my opportunities. Okay? Chris Paul, when the early stages of Chris Paul and James Harden, when that dynamic, the reason why they had success in the regular season, but none in the playoffs, But the reason why how that worked was, Chris Paul is not really an ISO player. He can score, but he can do a lot of other things good without having the ball in his hand. That's why, everybody would love to play alongside Chris Paul, but no organization wants Chris Paul's contract, and you do have to run into a problem with Chris Paul, as the individual. Sometimes he can be strong-headed. Sometimes, he can be very hard on players. Okay, but but teams would take a risk on that than the risk on, wow, we're like 100 and I say like what, 120 million on the books for Chris Paul, and we got him for I believe it's 4 years, but I want to say it's 3 years. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that's going to be eaten away on our salary cap. Everyone wants Chris Paul, but they don't want Chris Paul's problems, which is that contract. And he can sometimes be hard on players, but organizations will roll the dice on that. Okay, particularly if you got somebody that can run your schemes. Okay, so you got that, and that's the reason why that worked. In the regular season, they won a lot of games. They did a lot of magnificent things in the regular season. But when it came into the postseason, that's where they had problems. Let me, hold on one second. Yes, can I get a chicken biscuit and a sweet tea?
Anything else today?
That'll be it.
$4.91. I'll take one. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, how are you?
All right.
$4.91.
All right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Back.
All righty.
There you go. Have a good day.
You have a good day, ma'am. All right. Okay, so where was I? All right, yeah, Chris Paul. That's why he worked with Chris Paul and James Harden in the regular season. They did a lot of magnificent things in the regular season, but when it came into the postseason, when the tempo slows down, it become a half-court game, they would struggle, okay? And then that's why ultimately, particularly the past season and the postseason, Chris Paul and James Harden had issues. And you can look at the videos for yourselves when it's hard to explain something to somebody that thinks that they have all the answers. Okay, it's hard to let a person know we're doing something wrong when the evidence is in front of them that we're not doing anything wrong. We're winning a lot of games in the regular season. We're going into the postseason. So for you to come up to me and tell me that I should change, and by me changing, we're going to win a championship, it's hard to, tell somebody that when the evidence is in front of them that seems to suggest to them that, we just had bad breaks here and there, you was injured the last time, 2 years ago, and we was in the playoffs, Okay, this time you can point to we just did not have the breaks. So from James Harden angle, it's hard to get him to understand that the way how he's playing is not going to get us any closer to a championship. All right, so that's why that dynamic ultimately headed to Divorceville. When you got two players and now they can't stand to play alongside, and to talk to him, he doesn't want to change. Hey man, we're going to have to, if you want this thing to truly work, we're going to have to trade James Harden. And Daryl Morey looks Chris Paul in the eyes and say Chris Paul says, well, either he goes or I go. And then Daryl Morey says, well, Chris Paul has been real, it's been fun, but it hasn't been real fun. Tell me where you want to go. I will drive you there. Okay? Because when it's all said and done, the star player is going to get what he or she wants. Okay? Believe that. The star person, okay? If you got an A-list actor or actress and they have issues with a director, okay? The director does not sell the movie. The actor and the actress sells the movie, okay? No matter if the movie's bad, good, or not, how poorly it was written or whatever, the money is in the actor and the actress. And that same concept holds true in sports. When you got a star player and you have other players that have problems playing alongside a star player, those other players will be gone long before that star player. Okay? So that's the game Chris Paul played, and he ended up playing himself. So now he's with the OKC Thunder. All right? But let's talk about that dynamic of James Harden and Russell Westbrook. And I feel like you're going to see the same things when they had Chris Paul. They're going to win a lot of games. Hellified lot of games. You're going to see a whole lot of highlights on SportsCenter, the top 5. Great highlights. They're going to win a bunch of games. They're going to set a lot of records. Okay? And that's where the delusion starts forming in these two guys' minds. They're gonna come from the perspective of, wow, we're doing all this in the regular season, so in the postseason, this is our year. But folks, when the postseason starts and things start slowing down and possessions matter even more, where you can't make a boneheaded play, and one boneheaded play means you're out of the first round in the playoffs. In order for this to truly work, and the only way it's going to work, one of them two is going to have to sacrifice James Harden or Russell Westbrook. One of them is going to have to sacrifice their touches. One of them is going to have to sacrifice how they play in order for this to work. If you want to win a championship, one of them is going to have to sacrifice. And out of those two, who you think is going to sacrifice? You think the star of the show, the star of the franchise, James Harden, who never demonstrated it in his career, other than OKC, I'll give him OKC, where he sacrificed. You think he's going to do it? If he wasn't going to do it for Chris Paul, what makes y'all think he's going to do it for Russell Westbrook? And before anybody say, oh, they're friends, they played in AAU, they played in the NBA, they're great friends. They're great friends. He will change for his friend. When the ball, when the game starts, I mean, before the game starts, I'm pretty sure he thinks that way. I'm pretty sure he believes in that belief. But when the game starts, when the ball I mean, when they tip the ball, and or when it's inbounded, James Harden, everybody changes in a basketball game. Okay, yeah, you're friends, but you know when you're competing, you have to throw all that stuff out of the window. Okay, so I you know the one good thing about this trade was done early, so now they can play. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're practicing in the summer alongside one another, which I'm pretty sure they do that every summer. And then when preseason start, they'll be practicing in preseason with with the team and with themselves. And but and I think earlier in the season, in the regular season, you're going to see it work very well, and then you're going to hear all these articles say, "Hey, it works." With one can play with one another when the competition is really, everybody's really filling each other out. Nobody is, really pushing it that hard. 10 games in, 25 games in, because everybody's coasting, particularly in the first half of the regular season. I want to see how this works after the All-Star break. Okay, I want to see it work, how it's going to work when now these games are, no longer games. Now these games, we got to win these games because of position. Okay, I want to see how it works if they're, they're trying to get the last spot in the if they want to go to the postseason, or I want to see this work when they're like the 3 or 4 seed. If they got a high seed and they want to keep that high seed so they can play, so their first round matchup can be somebody that they can beat. I want to see it work then. Okay, how it's going to work then when the games really mean the most in the regular season, which is after the All-Star break, and how this dynamic works in the postseason, depending on who they play against. How does this work? Okay, and it'll be one, and then they got a good team around them with Houston. Okay, they got players that they already played with an ISO player who controls the ball the most in James Harden. They had played with that player before. Now they got to play with two players, Russell Westbrook and James Harden. I want to see how that dynamic works, because obviously PJ Tuckett and the other cast is their touches are going to be half of what they were last year. Okay, I want to see how they ultimately work with these two ISO ball dominant players. Okay, so I want to see how that factor works. Okay, so I mean the Rockets. I mean I still believe the Rockets are playoff bound, but where we part ways, particularly if people are saying this, are they going to win the title? I really don't see it. Even if and the only way I can truly see them in as far as a playoff, I mean not a playoff, they're a playoff contending team, but going for the title, that's a different breed. That's a different mindset, and I feel like the only way that's going to work if one of them is going to have to step up, and they're going to have to take one for the team, sort of say. So that's the only way I can see that dynamic really working later in the postseason. Okay. So I have questions about that dynamic. I'm pretty sure everyone has questions about that dynamic, And you're gonna see a lot of articles floating in the blog spheres through Bleacher Report, ESPN, Fox Sports 1. 10 games in the regular season. I give it 20 games in the regular season. People are going to come up with articles like, man, it's working, man. They're winning a lot of games, man. And nobody's not paying attention. Don't worry about the total amount of games they won. Look at all the games that where they played with stiffer competition, when the games were close. Look at those games. And those games are going to tell you whether or not this is going to work or not. Who's going to take the last shot? Russell Westbrook or James Harden? Now, there's reports out there that suggest that James Harden's going to play the point, which means that he's automatically going to get the ball. Okay? And in Mike D'Antoni's system, 7 seconds or fewer, I'm pretty sure the scenario is after 5 touches, I'm probably going to shoot 3 or 4 times. Okay? If they go in, I'm going to keep feeding myself. If I get a double or triple team, then I'm going to throw it to Russ. In Russ we trust. And once Russell Westbrook gets the ball, he gets 5 possessions, then he probably might shoot 3 or 4. And then they're going to base it on how many they make and how many they miss. Okay? So you got these two guys, all right? And you got a play scheme for these two guys, but what about for the rest? Okay, so what they're going to do, they're just going to stand around. Okay, so in this Mike D'Antoni system, I can possibly see it work from the standpoint of, offensive wise, because these two guys are not going to hold the ball as much because they're going to end up shooting the ball. Okay, and if they're going in, that's one thing. But what if it's not going in? Are they going to feed the other players? I think Russell Westbrook will do that more so than James Harden. So then, are you going to flip it? So that means Russell Westbrook is going to play the point because he's going to feed the others when it's not working. I mean, just too many dynamics that you have to be concerned and worried about in order for this to truly work. Okay. And in basketball, possessions go back and forth in a matter of seconds. So you have to have a system structured that fits everybody. Not just you got one system for these two guys, and then you got another complete system for these guys over here. If it doesn't work here, then we'll fall back to this. If this is not working here, then we'll fall back to this. I mean, you got to have a system and a structure for everybody to buy in. Okay? So, I told you guys how I felt about it. I just don't see it ultimately working the way everyone thinks it's going to work. I think it's going to be fool's gold in the first 25 games of the regular season. Everybody's going to be talking about this, how special this is, and then they're going to be talking about their winning streak. Can they move the winning streak past a certain amount of games? And win streaks are fun. Win streaks are extremely fun. But you know what determines a team more so than a win streak, a long win streak, is when they lose, and do they rebound from losing that win streak. That's where you determine whether or not you determine and distinguish the good teams from the bad teams, because even bad teams can have win streaks. Even bad teams can maintain a win streak. To determine the bad teams from the good teams is when they lose a win streak and when they start another win streak. That second win streak is what you need to pay attention to, and that distinguishes a good team from a bad team that just caught a lot of breaks in the scheduling, caught a lot of breaks due to injuries, just caught a lot of breaks. A lot of breaks fell their way. Okay, that's how a lot of teams can create these win streaks off the gate. But like I said earlier, you have to separate the good teams from the bad teams, or the second, trying to generate a second win streak, not the first win streak. And I feel like the Rockets are they're going to have a win streak. Everybody's going to talk about the win streak, and then they lose. What did they do when they lose? Do they continue to be the same old Rockets? Oh, we'll just make another win streak. Or they'd be the more thinking, diabolical Rockets, where they say, okay, that win streak didn't work. We tried some things. When we generated that win streak, okay, let's go back into the lab, figure things out, to see if we can do another win streak, doing it a different way. And I don't see them doing it a different way. Still going to be the James Harden show. It's going to be the James Harden show with Russell Westbrook and others. That's how it feels. If you're a Rockets fan, that's how you have to feel. It's James Harden. It's the James Harden show with Russell Westbrook and the others. That's how it feels. Well, guys, I'm done for today. Tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. If you message me at any of my videos, I will get back with you. Not probably at that point of time, but I will get back and reply to your message. If you really want to get at me real fast, real quick, hit me up on Twitter. I'm ChrisTheDon1. It's the host with the most. Oh, check out my podcast. Podcast be on and popping. All right. It's the I'm Chris the Don One podcast on iTunes, Google Play. I forgot to plug that, man. Spotify. Go check out that podcast. Support it. Favorite. Give it a review, a 5-star rating. It's your boy. I'm out. Deuces.